All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. And one thing I've been noticing that is starting to basically spread at this point when it comes to online and XDefiant is that a lot of players been starting to lose their faith in Mark Rubin, even to the point to where they are starting to not trust him anymore. Now, I'm very well aware, thanks to my comment section months and months ago, that there were those of you that just didn't really have any faith in Mark Rubin in the first place, like before the launch of the game. And that was simply because of the past in terms of Call of Duty, particularly with Call of Duty Ghosts, because as you guys know, Call of Duty Ghosts wasn't the most popular Call of Duty. However, I will say that Call of Duty Ghosts over time did get better, though, because Call of Duty Ghosts actually had some of the best DLC that we ever had on offer. You know, we had like the whole Michael Myers thing, we had the Predator thing, the maps, the DLC maps were improved, etc., etc. Call of Duty Ghosts did have some gems in its gameplay and gems of ideas and stuff like that. But at the same time, for the most part, there were also just a lot of things that just kind of went a little too far from what put Call of Duty further into grace, which was with Black Ops 2, and Call of Duty Ghosts just basically tried to go in a different direction than what Call of Duty Black Ops 2 did. And it made sense because it was an Infinity Ward title, and Treyarch just did things the way Treyarch did, and Infinity Ward also just always did what Infinity Ward did. Now, somebody wise once told me, actually not too long ago, that at the center of everything is trust. And when you start to lose trust, you start to lose everything, right? Trust is your foundation, so to speak, right? So when that is severed for whatever reason whatsoever, you start to lose everything and everything gets crumbled. And this is true in relationships. This is true in like pretty much anything, if you think about it. If a person has a legitimate reason, or at least to a certain degree, if there's like potential for reason to not trust you or whatnot, then that's the beginning of a problem. Now, is it possible that people could be wrong? Absolutely, we can always be wrong. But at the same time, people with critical thinking skills are going to think a little bit deeper beyond the surface, and that's what we're going to be getting into today. So now, obviously, we've already established that the fact that Mark Rubin was the lead of Call of Duty Ghosts is something that kind of had them speculating ever since the beginning. Ever since XDefiant was first revealed onto the world and was announced, and Mark Rubin was there front and center, etc., etc. One of the things that they were immediately thinking of was, again, Call of Duty Ghosts, which was a game that wasn't liked very much in the COD community. Although there are a decent amount of people that did like it, but when you're talking about like one of the better Call of Duties out there, I don't think Ghost is going to make that list. Although there are a few people that believe that it does belong on that list, but that's perfectly fine. The game did have a few gems here and there, but at the same time, it also did things differently that kind of rubbed people the wrong way. But anyway. So what am I talking about exactly when I mean that more people are starting to lose their faith in Mark Rubin? And that was and it kind of revolves around something that I talked about not long ago. And I actually wanted to make a video on this particular subject previously. So I'm glad that kind of things went full circle and that we're back at this subject now, because it's time. Because I've even seen at this point like a few content creators making videos about this. Or should I say, I've also read the comment section as well as different tweets and responses and stuff like that from people or whatnot that pretty much point in the direction to where like people literally are losing faith or have already lost faith in Mark Rubin and just don't simply trust him. And one big reason that they don't trust him in terms of current times is because they don't believe him when they say that this game wasn't rushed, right? So he had stated in a tweet not too long ago, responding to somebody, that the game was not rushed. And a lot of people are not believing that, because for months, ever since the closed and open betas, now I don't know anything previously because I personally myself have not, I didn't play the closed sessions before you can record or stream or whatnot. I didn't play those. but I did play the closed beta, and then I did play the open beta, and then I played the last open test session, which was a month or so before launch. So that's all I can speak off of. But in terms of anything previously or prior to that, I can't say from personal experience. Although I did talk to a few people in the DMs, and they basically said that it wasn't it. Or there was one other person that I remember that also told me that the game has a long way to go, so to speak. And I've also seen online concurrently that, you know, people say also that for the people that praise it, that, hey, the game has come a long way since like those closed sessions, which I believe, you know, because a lot of time has passed between then and to where we are now. However, something that kind of counters that is the fact that there are still lingering issues that occurred during those closed sessions that are still apparent and there in what we're getting currently in the full release build. Now, again, I've mentioned time and time again over the channel that I don't know anything personally about game development. As a matter of fact, ever since Mark Rubin had been more and more active on Twitter, especially after launch and even before launch, there are things about game development that I didn't know previously that I know now thanks to Mark Rubin. So obviously his transparency with the community has been great. He's been listening to everybody under the sun. He's been listening to big names in the community, small names in the community, in-betweeners, and then people that just play the game that happen to have a social media account that, you know, tag him or whatnot. That's been very apparent. However, a lot of people, again, people are starting to like lose trust in the man simply because of the fact that they don't believe him when he says that the game wasn't rushed, because all those other problems that were in the beta previously or in previous builds of the game before release are still there after release, right? So it's like, you know, obviously there were still problems with the open beta, obviously, but at the same time there were also improvements. At least on my end, there were still improvements. But with that being said, there were also still problems. So there was kind of a familiarity there. So a lot of people will say that it was rushed because it was only a month later that the game got released. As a matter of fact, a lot of us content creators, both big and small, we all expected the game to come out later than when it did. It was a surprise to most of us that the game was coming out a month later after that last play session that we had. All of us were surprised, but we took it and we embraced it simply because of the fact that we'd been waiting for so long, we've been speculating for so long, we've been making videos for so long, even though there haven't been too many, you know, sessions played before then or whatnot. So there was a lot of speculation, a lot of videos made about the game in terms of where we might head, when it's going to come out, all that kind of stuff. I made a good share. I've made my fair share of XDefiant videos long before the game came out. So, and of course, a lot of people were interested in that. So now, this is the biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons why I made this video and talking about it is because I wanted to ask you guys as to why exactly, for those of you guys that have lost faith or are losing faith or just simply don't trust Mark Rubin, I want you guys to tell me in terms of where we are now, because the game is released, okay? This is not like a pre-release question like I've had one time previously with you guys, but this is a post-release question. And I want to know exactly why. And one of the reasons is not just because I'm curious and because I love the communication that we have in the comment section, which you guys have been very, very generous with as of lately, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you very much, by the way. But also because there's a chance to where there could be a little bit more in depth as to why, and a dev or devs may see that and then they'll be like, you know what? Hey, you know, this makes sense. And you never know, there might be some further communication when it comes to this subject coming on later on down the line. If there's any chance we can get some sort of response or communication from this, or further communication to help the community understand better as to why and all that other stuff, you know, it'd be on XDefiant, you know, because if we were talking about this with Call of Duty or whatnot, it would just be like screaming underwater or whatnot. Nobody would hear you, or screaming in outer space. Nobody would hear you. But at least with XDefiant, at the very least, we could be heard, right? We know we're heard now, and we have an increased chance of getting some sort of response. And the more of us actually talk about this subject, respectfully, of course, I think we're going to eventually get some sort of response that explains things better, because in my opinion, despite the fact that everything like makes sense, like in terms of why people lose faith, like they believe that, you know, if like like if you got some critical thinking skills and some basic knowledge and putting things together and stuff like that in your mind in a common sense fashion, it would make sense that the game has been rushed, right? But and it certainly seems that way, and evidence points in the direction that, yeah, maybe the game was rushed. You know what I mean? And of course, we've got other games that are coming out as well that are similar shooters to XDefiant. We're not just talking about COD. We're talking about, there's another one I think called Fragpunk or whatnot. And then one more after that, and I don't really remember whatnot. So you do have to remember that this is a business as well. And timing is everything when it comes to this. But a lot of people, and rightfully so, are feeling quite, how do I put this? A little bit angry because they are smelling BS, but the question is it a figment of their imagination or is it not? And the thing is, it doesn't seem like it is a figment of their imagination because there's lingering problems that were apparent before the game came out that are still there after the game has come out. But with that being said, that doesn't necessarily mean that Mark is lying. You know what I mean? So I am willing to give the man the benefit of the doubt, and hopefully we can hear a little bit more about this because as this becomes a bigger subject within the community, and when I start, and again, once I saw a content creator, make a video about this or whatnot, and plus I've seen things in the comment section, and of course, online you see things written. It's like, okay, it's time to start talking about this now because it's a big subject, and obviously the first step in solving a problem or getting a better understanding about something is to number one, recognize that there is one, and of course you start talking about it, right? So that's the first step, and then obviously applying that communication is the next step. And XDefiant, to be honest with you, is really good at doing that. There's been a lot of communication and transparency going back and forth, and there's been some progress done within that. But one of the areas of progress that a lot of people are obviously complaining about is the fact that obviously you've got these netcode issues and then a whole bunch of other issues. I mean, there's no doubt that the game certainly has a lot of issues. But at the same time, on the other side, on the more positive side, there's plenty of people that still do have faith and are still having really good times with the game. But there's always that but, right? So it's like I recently had a poll that asked, why have you stopped playing XDefiant? And there were a few players. I mean, there were a really good amount of people that responded in my community tab. Shout out to you guys, by the way. That basically said, hey, like there was one person that asked, like, hey, where's the option to, hey, I'm still playing, or a lot of people just responded saying, I'm still playing and having a good time. But there's also a lot of people that are saying, I'm still playing, but I'm not playing as much anymore. Sometimes it's because they're also focusing on another game, and other times it's because they're not playing as much anymore because there's certain things that they're just frustrated about, and they can't keep playing that long like they did at first because it's just becoming increasingly frustrated with the problems that are apparent in this game. And as I've mentioned in a previous video, something like a bad net code, so to speak, or things like rubber banding or getting shot around walls or something like that, for a significant amount of the player base, that is enough to like keep them away from the game. You know what I mean? That in and of itself, there's players that I'm pretty sure would have tried this game if the net code was in a much better place right now, but because it was at the state that it was, they didn't even, they didn't even give the game a shot. And I'm pretty sure that there's other content creators out there that would have been awesome at the game, even though they played it, but they haven't even given it a shot. And perhaps there's even something that they know that goes a little bit deeper than this commentary that I don't, and they basically haven't even given the game a shot, unfortunately. So there have been improvements in certain areas, but in other areas it seems like there's been little to no progress whatsoever. And that is why a lot of people, or a certain percentage of people, including a few content creators now, it seems, that don't trust Mark Rubin. So at the end of the day, do you guys still have faith and trust in the game and in Mark Rubin and his team? Or is it starting to waver now? Is it starting to go down? Are you starting to lose that kind of trust or whatnot? Is it something that you're not really expecting much of anymore? Is XDefiant a dream that briefly seemed to come true that just wasn't what it seemed to be for you guys? I want to know in the comment section in terms of where you lie. And at the end of the day, are you expecting this game to do, like, let's say a 180 or something like that by the time the first year is released? And obviously, a year is asking for a lot, but over the next coming months, are you expecting continuous improvement? So with that being said, that's all I got, guys. I really am curious as to what you guys have to say in the comment section. I'd really like to thank everybody for their tremendous support. We are just like we're around the corner for 3K subs, and I still can't believe it. And it's all because of you guys, and as well as the game of XDefiant itself. So at the end of the day, in terms of where I lie, I see where you guys are coming from, and yet at the same time, I'm very grateful to be at the point to where I am now. And I don't know. I don't know where we'll be in a few months from now, but I guess I'm just going to try to be in the moment and enjoy the ride for however long it lasts. So thank you guys very much. And as always, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch and or listen, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.